Hey everyone, welcome.
Hello.
And we see people coming. Hi, hi, hi. Where are you joining from? Can you tell us in the chat? I don't see the chat, so I hope.
I see it, so you can tell me.
Yes. I am joining from Berlin. I don't know where you are right now. Berlin, nice. We're gonna wait a few minutes till some people join. We wanna let slowly people in and not rush it. Nice. Yeah, I see some videos, some pictures. Where?
Seattle.
Ooh, what time is it there?
Yeah, what I was also thinking right now.
10 a.m. or something.
So good morning to Seattle.
Yeah.
More like service design breakfast.
Yes.
Yes.
True. 10 a.m. Yes, 10 a.m. Nice.
Nice.
Netherlands are also joining.
Nice. I have a friend coming in a few hours from the Netherlands, so nice. Cool.
I also see some familiar names. Hi
Yes.
there.
Hi, Anna.
Hi, Debbie.
Nice. Cool.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hi.
Hey.
Can you hear me well?
Yeah.
Oh, fine. Pleasure to meet you.
Likewise.
Nice to meet you
Very
too.
nice.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm here because I'm following Flávio. So I'm from Brazil and I really appreciate his work. And I would like to stay close to that community because Berlin, it's my favorite city around the world.
Gotta get me
Nice.
blushing.
So,
Yeah.
a Flávio
Not
fan.
so good of a compliment.
Yeah, Flávio and Berlin fan. Actually.
Great combination.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you. I hope I represent well
Yeah.
both sides, Berlin and Brazil.
Yeah, I think so. All right.
Cool. We have some more people coming. Nice. I guess we're gonna give it a 1 or 2 more minutes and then we can kick this off. Still, I don't read the chat. Sorry, I need to open it. Where are you commuting from? Ah, still commuting.
Yes. Hi, Maria. Also a colleague of mine.
Hello. Hi.
There will be almost no images, so if you want to take it as a podcast, this can also serve as a podcast tonight. No worries. Enjoy the commute with the conversation. Hi.
Hagen is also joining.
Nice.
I really like it that we have so many people from abroad. It's really cool.
One of the advantages of doing this remotely and virtually. Yeah.
Yeah, if there is one, it's this, right?
Yes.
So if you want to grab a drink before we start, you still have some minutes.
Yeah. Good idea.
Like some few minutes.
Yeah. Some people are shy and prefer not to have the video on. Those who are not commuting, it's okay, don't worry.
Although we like to see more faces.
Yeah.
But yeah.
The more the better, so it's just not us. It's showing faces.
Okay, so yeah, maybe we can slowly start, and in the meantime, people will still join.
Mhm.
So can you see my screen?
Yes.
Welcome everybody to the Service Design Drinks Berlin. Yay! First, Mela told you that you had some more minutes, and I hope you all have a drink with you right now. I have my tea here, there I see beer. Maybe for breakfast you have a coffee in Seattle, I don't know. So really quickly, what are we doing here and what we try to do in this monthly now virtual meetings, but also in person sometimes. This is all about getting together over drinks, having good conversations, talking about interesting topics for the service design community and the design community all together, and hopefully help you to level up and to connect and to learn, and in person or remotely, in Berlin and in the world right now. So welcome to that. The team behind this Service Design Drinks in Berlin is here for one of those rare occasions where the four of us are in the same event. My name is Matti. I'm a design lead at Fjord. Mela is here.
Yeah, and I actually changed jobs. So we didn't, I'm just realizing we didn't change it here on the slide. So now I'm at Eden Spiekermann. So yeah, it's not BCGDV anymore, but Eden Spiekermann.
And we have Adam.
I am Adam.
Hi. And Dee.
Hi, I'm Dee.
And these are the four people that have been running these events under the circumstances for the past 2 years now. Tonight we have a really nice event for you, prepared for you. We're going to have a conversation with Flávio, who's here. And we're going to be talking a little bit about creativity and what it means and how to rediscover it and reignite it, if you will. And I think we can just start the conversation by learning a little bit about Flávio. So Flávio, would you mind telling us for who you are, what you do, what is your role?
Sure. So as you already saw, I'm a lead experience designer at BCG Digital Ventures. I'm originally from Brazil. I moved to Germany, I think 11 years ago now. And I've been working with product design for the last, I think 11 years of my life, working a lot with startups. I co-founded my startups back in Brazil, failed with them, learned a lot of them, would not change anything from these failures. I think it teaches you more than successes, I would say. Worked for other people as well in Berlin. And then for the last 3.5 years, I've been in BCG Digital Ventures, where I actually met Mela and worked with her, had the pleasure to work with her for quite some time, and been building products for big companies. That's what I can tell.
Nice.
And then in part of that, I think that was the whole spark of this conversation, is that I had this idea I think 2 years ago, where I started drawing cows on a daily basis, and that somehow resonates well with people. People like that. It's fun, and I like that. For me, it's an escape. And I am here today to talk a little bit about this process as well, like how I got to there and how this helped me to move away from a very strict working space and less creativity in design.
Yeah, so shut up. Super cool. No, we're going to talk a little bit about that in a few minutes, but I think a lot of people in the call maybe only have heard about that part, and it would be interesting to also know a little bit more about yourself. For example, something like what is your favorite meal when you're sad?
I would say tacos. Even my network at home is called Taco Land.
Really?
Because we do tacos very often. So yes, I'm a taco person.
Is that something you brought from Brazil, or does it come from Germany?
No, I just always liked, and then one day I decided to do myself because in Berlin it was pretty hard to find good tacos, and then I decided to do home. Now it's better. Now you can find good places.
Yeah,
but that was where I started.
Cool. Is there a person that you would like to meet in person that you haven't?
I would love to meet Adam Grant. I think most of people know him. But I read lately also Think Again, his last book, which is a very good, for me, was an eye opener for a lot of leadership aspects, but also like general, like how you work in a big company and how you deal with a lot of the human aspects of the day-to-day work. And it's just a great person, and I would love to have the chance to sit down for a wine or for a dinner and just chat about all these crazy things that he thinks through.
Cool. So maybe our network can network with their own networks, and at some point we get you that invitation. Let's see. Let's hope.
Let's hope. That would be amazing. that would be fantastic.
Is there, like, if I don't know if you have one, but do you have a golden rule? And if you do, what's your golden rule?
Golden rule stuff. For me, golden rule is always I always try to put people first instead of products or like whatever build, right? Like as designers, we get like educated to be like user-centered, but user is like a pretty pejorative word, right? Like it's like also the same word that you use for people that are addicted to drugs, for example. So I try to put people on top and people as a priority and connect most. I think that's for me is the one golden rule when designing is like looking at the people and trying to really put myself into the place of the person.
That's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one. What would be your most prized possession?
I don't know if I have one. Most prized possession.
Or maybe your most expensive one.
Expensive possession. I'm trying to think. I would say probably is this device that I'm talking to you to. It's probably the most expensive thing that I bought or that I have in my hands at the moment. I don't know if it's the most priced one, but it's the one that I use every day, right? I mean, I'm every day, all day on that. So right. It's the one thing that comes to mind.
Cool. And now going back to how you started, what was your first job? Even if it wasn't a design job.
Yeah, so my first job was, so my father, he tried to do many things over the years. And then my first job was working with him. He had like a company where he had like vending machines on big companies in Rio, where I'm from. And then I was starting university, and he just, as a good father, just put me to work on carrying on and helping to fill in the machines and like go around the city. Mati, you are also from South America, can imagine like going around the city is not that easy, not that fast, especially if you have a full bag of goods to fill in the machine. So it teaches you different lessons of like how you can optimize routes and optimize your life day to day. Yeah. But that was patience. Like a quick summer job. Yeah, patience, a lot of patience. But that was more like a summer job on the break, right? Like when I was not studying.
And what was your first design job?
First design job, that's a little bit embarrassing to say, but it was like in a small agency. My job, I was an intern there, like a small design agency back in Brazil. And then I was an intern. And as a good intern, I got tasked to do, like, the big client was a underwear company. So I was tasked to clean the pictures on Photoshop. That was my first design job, basically, doing all the cleaning from removing skin issues, removing tattoos that were like related to football, and you cannot put anything football related in the package, for example, to also adjusting the content of the underwear per se. That was everything that was done in that job. I can say that taught me a lot of Photoshop because I have to do a lot of very flexible things. And that was my first design job.
That was very elegantly put, I have to say.
Yeah, I told that story not the first time, so it gets better with time. First time that said it was very, very painful to tell, and people were like laughing hard.
I can imagine. And for the people here that are now listening to you, could you give us in 1-2 minutes from that first design job, what was your journey to the current position you have?
Sure. I mean, I don't have on top of my mind because I may skip something, but like from that first job, I moved to another agency, which was actually a Spanish agency doing marketing. So I was doing a lot of like flash ads for companies like Groupon and things like this. So basically pixel moving and manufacturing ads on there. After that, then I got a scholarship and moved to Germany. So I did a little of a break on my working and started like studying. So I got a scholarship to do my master. In between, then I had to work again. So I joined the Bertelsmann Stiftung, which is a German institution. They had a blogging project where they talk about globalization and like societal, I don't know if you say that, society issues. And discuss that with people like specialized from the region, and they built a team in Brazil, and I was like responsible to lead the team and help building a team and like giving all the support needed. And then after that, so in between I did my 2 startups back in Brazil, so it was like a little on a remote role, doing like design co-founder. Failed both of them, one of them because the investors wanted us to quit our jobs and do it, and we didn't believe the idea enough to do that. And the second one was we just couldn't find a technical team to develop. So we burned our cash in bad agencies that never delivered. And then the investor took the investment off. And then after that, I decided to work for other people. And then I joined a small startup from Project A called Kaito, which they do like B2B portal marketing. And there's actually where I met my fiance, which is cool. So good story, good point. After that, then I worked at Relayer, which is a IoT company here in Berlin, one of the biggest in Europe, I would say. And after that, BCG Digital Ventures. I hope I didn't skip anything.
No, wow, that's quite a journey. And thinking about probably your last role and your last roles, what's the thing that you enjoy the most about user experience design or designing products or the current work that you're doing, basically?
I think like it's how powerful small decisions that we make can have in people's life. So for example, in the beginning of the year, I was working on a product that was focused on mental health for women 50+ in Germany. And like we see, like with user research, right, every time that we talk to the users, the impact that all the small decisions that we had in the small room, like actually no small room because I was working from home, so from my living room, even better, all the small decisions that I took from the living room had actually a huge impact on a day-to-day and helped them to cope better with a lot of the problems that they had and all the situations. So I feel like for me, that's the most exciting part of design, is the chance of like having really an impact on someone's life through a screen, right? Like something that's on their hands on a day-to-day basis. Multiple times a year.
And now that you are, well, you're working for BCGDV, so I would assume that there's a lot of business in the kind of work that you do. So how does that impact the kind of design that you do? How does it, how does that work in that context?
Yeah, I mean, it brings in the end more requirements, right? It puts more constraints on the creative work. Like if I compare the work that I did before, for example, on the startups, there was like less focus on some business aspects and more space for design to shine in that sense, right? But at Digital Ventures, we at the same time have also like amazing support, right? Like projects start and people expect that we're gonna do the due diligent design work, which is awesome. It just comes with more requirements and more expectations on like KPIs we have to achieve and results we have to report to, which end up consuming some time that could be invested in creativity, for example.
What would you say are some of the things that stop you from being creative in this process?
I think sometimes the timelines and the speed, right? Because then you have to move very fast, have to deliver, and then timelines change a little bit, and then you have to adapt, and then you get feedback, and then it's time to pivot, and like everything that comes in the way and has an impact on the timelines, it end up forcing or like spilling back into the design work, into the creative work, and creates more limitations, right? And then also like as higher as you go, like as I transitioned also to the leadership position, then you also become like more important that you participate in more meetings and have to be more in meetings than effectively having focus time to do the design work, which is also like end up like consuming a lot of the energy, because then the moment that you sit up and open a computer and say like, okay, now it's time to Figma, you just don't have the energy, right? And then I have to like somehow find the energy to then sit up and do the job or do the task that I have to do.
Do you have any routine or anything you do to bring back that energy to keep yourself creative, so to speak?
Yeah, I draw cows. That's how it all started.
Yeah.
Like I basically, for me, it was like escape, because I was feeling like I was at some point, or like 2019, I was feeling like really deep into work and very consumed by work in a way that it almost felt like, I was in the middle of a place and there's like this fog of work and requirements around you. And it's like, okay, where can I find space to breathe? And I started playing with that. It all started on Post-its, right? It was like on a project that we were doing, that was like on topic was dairy industry. So I was watching pictures of cows every day and all day. So we talk about cows, we see cows, went to farms and see farms, see cows getting milked and all the process and everything. And you just get into that. And when you sit into a meeting, like I think everybody, I think not only designers, even like business people, when you sit in a meeting and you zoom out a little bit, you start drawing, right? And you normally draw things that are on your mind. And in my mind were cows. And then that's how it all started. And then it eventually became like a sort of a ritual to the team, where then in the beginning of the day, we had a check-in where we discussed, okay, what would be the cow of the day? And then if nobody had an idea, then they just drop a post-it during the day on my table. And then at the end of the day in the checkout, I had to show the post-it with the cow. And then it all started like this very limited, right? Like this colorful square with a very thick pen, which is also like limiting even more like the abilities or like anything that you want to try to do drawing. The thicker the pen, the more difficult it is. And yeah, that's how it all started. And for me, like I realized, like after this project, I took a break and I stopped drawing the cows. And I realized how I was going back into it. Like I remember the day that I sit down and it felt like, okay, the fog is coming back, right? And I'm having the block again. And I just decided then to go back in, and I started doing like slowly and timid, because I wasn't long in the project. So I didn't have an excuse to tell people why I'm drawing cows. So I just like did for myself for some time. And then on the change of the year, like from 2019 to 2020, then I had a bunch of people already asking me like, hey, do an Instagram, do something, like put the cow somewhere. It's so cool, just do that. And then I was sitting in the sofa with my girlfriend at the time, and she was like, yeah, why not do that? Just let's do it. And then I just grabbed the iPad, and that's how it all started. That's Cow 01.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Did you try anything else other than cows?
I did try, but then there is also this thing, right? The more you do something, the better you get at it. So I started doing other things. I was like, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look that good. I also tried because like the project that I was actually with Mela after, and it was something related to toilet paper. So I tried to replace the cow with toilet paper, and it did not work. It was not fun because I was like, maybe it's like, I just do something related to the project that I am. Like this was cows, then the next one is toilet paper, then the next one, whatever it is, and let's do it. No, the toilet paper did not work. I did the one poster and it's not that fun. So I try other things and I still draw other things, but the cow is the one thing that I keep going back into, and I feel more and more comfortable. Like if you look into the post-its, there is a huge difference from the style of the cow until today. Like today there was a style that follows through. Before it was like every cow was a completely different monster. Not even looking so like cow sometimes, but
how, like you were saying that it became a sort of a ritual with your team to go through the post-its or to choose what the cow of the day would be. But do you remember at the very beginning, how was it perceived? I'm just trying to imagine one of those meetings where people are talking a lot of business important stuff and they want you to listen and you are doodling cows. So how was that perceived at the beginning?
That's a good point. I mean, I have to say it was also a very special team, right? It wasn't like a very, like we're not doing like something extremely business oriented by the time. We're doing like an exploration in the dairy field. And the way I started, I just left the posters on the table and I didn't show anybody, I was just drawing and I forgot a bunch of posters in there. And then someone was like, whoa, who did that? And I was like, oh, I'm sorry, it was me. And then the team was like super receptive because I mean, most of us were designers as well. So everybody was like, oh, that's cool. Let's just like do it. And we had like, so we had the check-ins and check-out. We always try to do exercises. So we always did like things like, I don't know, if you would have a dinner with a celebrity that's already dead, who would be? And then we just had to go around and talk about this thing. So it was a very open space and very creativity friendly environment, I would say. And I think that definitely helped because I felt like it was a safe space, right? I mean, it was people that I knew as well from before, from other projects as well. And I think they all came together in the right time, in the right moment. Now that I think about it.
When you're thinking a little bit about it, it started as an escape to the creative block, or that's a little bit the way you were describing it, and then it's something that you keep on doing, and it's already like a ritual or a routine. It all seems very positive from the story you're telling, but what are the downsides of it? Is there anything negative that you can say about your cows?
Of course. I mean, so last year, I have to say, was much easier because then eventually I just put this goal like, okay, I'll just reach this number of cows, right? And then I started with like, let's start with like, I don't know, maybe 50 days. And then after the 50 days, like, okay, I feel pretty good. I can continue that. Let's extend to 100 and then let's extend it. And it was easy. And then the second year I felt much harder. Like also like the lockdown made it very difficult, to be honest, because you basically, my inspiration was like, the way that I decide what is going to be the cow today, right? It's like either something that happened on my life, and that's the reason why for me is a almost like a psychologist, funny. But it's like because I reflect on something that's happening, or it's something that I saw. So before, like going the U-Bahn in Berlin, like the public transportation in Berlin, you always see some very unique characters and unique things, and that's easy to inspire you, like it's easy to get to think about something. So I think like lockdown was the first blocker, because then in the beginning I was like, okay, what should I draw? Like it's nothing happening. I'm just sitting, waking up, breakfast, work, dinner, done. That's it. That's the day. And to overcome that was the first thing. And then afterwards I'm also like feeling a little bit like limited on like, what am I drawing exactly? So I started trying to put like more like a schedule on what I'm trying to draw, because then it helped me to overcome this barrier of deciding, right? Like I sit down on Sunday and did a brainstorm with my fiance in the living room and say like, hi, what's gonna do this week? Let's do this, and that. And eventually that also became a pressure, because then I was like, oh fuck, Sunday I have to plan for the week. So it almost becomes like a sprint, right? And I had a calendar, I had a Notion page with the cows and topics and ideas and etc. And that was also another moment that I was like, okay, maybe I need to take a step back and just like breathe for a second. And I did that as I took a vacation of like a couple of weeks, and I just did a step back and said, okay, maybe I come back afterwards. And since I came back, I feel much more energized and feel much better about it. And now I'm trying different things to keep motivated, like I don't know, because I don't know if you see the page, right? It's everything black and white. I am still afraid of playing with colors, even though a designer. It's still like, it's a completely different world. So I'm now trying to push myself to do maybe less cows, but also more high fidelity, if you can say that, but like more like visual cows with like colors and stuff. I'm still getting the confidence to share them, but it's gonna come soon. And I just have to work more on that.
You just said two things that I wanted to ask you about. One is, how do you motivate yourself, and how do you like overcome your inner critic to publish a cow? What's
the
that
inner critic
process?
Was a tough one.
Yeah.
The inner critic was like, I mean, I used to draw as a kid. That was one of the reasons why I ended up doing design, right? Because then it was a natural way. But to think like, okay, what people will say, right? I mean, I'm gonna post a cow. I am supposed to be, you know, it's like consultant working for a very well-established company, professional services, like posting black and white cows on an Instagram page. Sounds a little bit strange, but the few people that I show and that I discuss about in the beginning, they were so supportive that I was like, you know what, that's gonna be a fit. There will be people that will find that irrelevant or like just nothing for them, and there will be people that will resonate with, and maybe that helps other people to also overcome this fear. And I think like the one thing that I learned over this whole journey is that you just have to get started, right? And that's normally the one blocker thing, right? When you look into a blank page, blank canvas, you look at it and it's like, it just looks much bigger than it really is, right? Like it's like overwhelming, it's scary, and it's difficult to put the first line down. I think the post-it process helped me a lot with that, because it was like, no space for mistake. If mistakes, throw away, right? There's no correct here, correct there. And then I learned a lot that the fact you just need to get started. And that was one thing that I learned from that I took also further back to my career. Is like, sometimes when you don't feel motivated, you just try to move a box in, try to do something small, because that may help to get started on get things flowing.
And now that you're touching on that, so let's say it's all about getting started. How do you think about the starting situation yourself? Do you put yourself some goals, some timelines? I want to try for a couple of weeks. When do you start to feel, okay, this is making sense?
So normally, because I do that on a daily basis, right? I mean, it's for me, like, for example, today I haven't done yet. I'm going to do after this.
Wow.
It's going to be the one for today.
No pressure.
No pressure. So for me, it was super helpful in the beginning, because I used that in my lunch break, for example, right? Because then I just took a lunch, like in the lunch break, take a half an hour and try to do that in half an hour. So you kind of like put the time limit and say like, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that. And now it's basically my level of energy. So I have to be very conscious and very aware of like how much energy I have at the moment, to say, okay, maybe I shouldn't do that idea because maybe too complex for now. Maybe I leave that for tomorrow, and then tomorrow try to do earlier on and where I have more power to do it. But it's like a lot of a question of self-awareness on that point, and learning about myself and how much energy I have on the different moments.
Yeah.
But if I think deadlines help a lot, right? I mean, deadlines, I mean, for me, as I said in the beginning, like having the goals of like, okay, let's reach 50, let's reach 100, and so on, helped me. And then now there was also like a little bit of my challenge, because I was like, okay, I don't have really a goal. I mean, I don't want to push too much on, okay, let's get to 100 because I'm already in 500. It's going to take another 1 year. I know already. I can calculate how many days. So it's like if the goal is too far, it's also difficult to motivate myself too.
Yeah.
So trying to set goals and set the time limit, I think it's what helps me at least and get started.
It's really, I find it very interesting that it started as a way to escape from creative blocks. And yet you need to set yourself blockers and limits and constraints to get it going. How does that part come to be? Because at the beginning, I guess you were just doodling. When did you start to need these limitations or these constraints?
I think it was from the moment that I started publishing, because then I made a compromise, like I commit myself to it, right? And I said, a cow a day keeps the doctor away. I had to do that. So I had to continue doing that on a daily basis. And I think that push, and like, that was the positive thing of doing the Instagram thing, because if I wouldn't have published, then I would be like, if I don't do today, it's fine. Nobody knows about it. It's okay. And then like, the Instagram was a little bit like a public shaming pressure on myself, even though it was just friends following, right? I mean, in the beginning, I had like only people that I really know close to me, like there was no unknown followers. So it was more like, okay, people will understand. But anyway, I put that out. I said that I have to do it. And that was what pushed me. Like, I mean, I think like I started doing that to escape the block. But as I said, constraints, like, I mean, I don't know, we are humans, right? We all need constraints. Otherwise we sometimes just lack the motivation to move forward. And having a little bit helped. I think like what's for me still positive, or like what was fine in the transition, was the fact that, it was a goal that I set to myself, and it was not like delimited by a contract, or we're not delimited by someone sitting in a room that it's not working on my things, right? And it was me, myself, and I committing to myself and saying, okay, I'm going to do that. I'm going to reach that goal. I'm going to do that on this timeline, on this block of the day, which then became something for myself, right? And something, if it's for yourself, then you always find time. That's the thing that my mom always said. If you want to do something, you do it. If you don't want to do it, you don't find time for it. And that's the rule of life, I think.
How now that you've been doing this for a while, and in a way you have found the way it works for you, how does it affect or change the way you work in your own projects?
Yeah, so for me, as I said a bit before, having this, I mean, getting comfortable with the ambiguity, right? Like looking to the empty screen and saying like when I look into the iPad, it's like full empty. I'm like, okay, what am I doing today? It's taught me also to look into the empty Figma and not be overwhelmed with that, or look into the empty Miro board and not be overwhelmed with that. It's just like basically move post-its or move whatever you can move inside, and things will start naturally moving towards whatever you have to go. But I think important is to get started. I think that was the most important lesson that I took out of the whole journey. Is like, it's going to be difficult. It's not going to be easy all the time, but as long as you move, things keep moving and things get your place, I think.
And have you, this is a little bit the process that you've gone through, and the way you somehow learn from it. Have you shared with your teams? Have you used this as a weapon with your teams?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's my number one icebreaker, right? Stinky fish. It's like, oh, what is your stinky fish? I draw cows every day. And people are like, what the? And like, I just did like a project with people from other places of the world and like very different cultures. And they were like looking at it and it's like, dude, that's awesome. Like, why don't you do that as your job, right? On day to day. So that's my stinky cow, not stinky fish in that sense. But like I use that as a motivation. I try to use also the cow as I mean, if you follow it, and you're going to see, like, for example, I try to always use that as like warm-up exercises, or like also communicating about icebreakers and showing icebreakers to people and teaching them and trying to help them also to break a little bit the ice, right? To break a little bit the stress. And I try to do that on a weekly basis. So for example, yesterday I posted one, like when I draw a cow, like basically going into the stage as a wrestler. And I asked people, what will be your theme song to go in as a wrestler, right? And then you just get people to smile and go a little bit out of their stressful moments of life. And I try to do that once a week with different exercises, different things, also teaching people how to do or explaining how to do it. And which also started then a completely different project on my side, which is building up like a library with like warm-up exercises and icebreaker exercises, because then I can always go back to it. I was like, oh, today I'm going to do this, today I'm going to do that, as a reference point. But yeah, I think like that's the two sides that I use that a lot, and it helps. And sometimes I think in all the company or all the ventures that I built since then, there's always a moment that someone says like, hey, can you do a call for me? And then it's like you just draw, and people are so excited. People are so happy. Like I just work in a team with a guy, Ryan, that I did he was like the whole week, like, dude, where are my cows? I start following, and I haven't seen cows because I mean I was in a very tough work week, like doing workshops all day from 7 to 7. So I didn't have the energy to do the cows, and I was like, dude, just wait, chill, like 5 days. And I'm gonna get your cow. No worries.
It will be worth it.
Yeah, it's gonna be worth it. And then he got his cow, and he was super excited, super happy about it. And it's like it's just cool to see like how a small act that you do, like sitting on your sofa watching Netflix and drawing, and people are so excited about it, and helps them also to cope better with things. So it's cool. I love it.
Nice. Do you keep count on how many cows you've drawn till now? Do you know how many?
I can check the Instagram. That's the real truth.
The ones that you published.
Yeah, I don't have any that is unpublished.
Okay.
Because that's also like, if I do it, then I do it. Like then I publish it. I'm now by 475.
Wow. Okay.
That's the amount of days that I've been doing that.
So you you were telling the story about your colleague Ryan. Do you basically, what I understand here is that you don't do special cows for other people. All of the cows belong to you.
Yeah, I mean, what I did, because there is the one main cow, right? If you go through, it's the one cow, you can see the spot marks are always the same. That's the cow that's consistently there. And that's the cow today. And then she got some guests sometimes, sometimes the cow represents me. Sometimes the cow represents things that happens on my fiance's life. So things that happen to her or things that happen to me, it comes to the cow. If you go to her profile as well, you're gonna see like the tagged images or like the tagged photos. Cows. It's like everywhere cows, and that's also like, I'm sorry to her, but but yeah, I don't draw like the person as a cow, but I draw the person as a character on that world, right? So in that sense, for example, Brian became a bull. There was like the cow was working frantically, and then there was a bull next to it saying, "Where's my cow?" Showing the phone and say like, "Where's my cow? Where's my cow?" And that was my good friend Ryan.
Do you are you thinking about bringing guests to the cows beyond the characters? Would you co-share the creation of cows with somebody?
That would be cool. I mean, I haven't thought about it, to be honest. I mean, I did a little bit on collab by redrawing some artists. That was also something that I did as well as inspiration, to say like, hey, look at this guy. This guy is awesome. Or look at this this amazing person here doing this and that. So I did a couple series where I did like a cow living a drawing of other artists, right? So I force myself basically as a guest to the artist in that sense. But I haven't thought about it. It's actually a super cool idea. I would love that.
We have questions from the audience, and I've been asking some of those questions, but now that you mentioned this, I just wanted to read you this question. What does it feel like being in the cowverse? You were just talking about it a bit. So what kind of paperwork or process do you need to go through to enter into this alternative reality?
You just have to draw cows or actually other animals. I mean, I got people asking me like, why not expanding the world also to other animals? And I try to add different ones. How does it feel? It feels awesome, right? I mean, the cow is like lives in a pretty wild world where she does lots of crazy things. So it's very cool. I would love to have that life.
Yeah.
more as my real life, but it's a cool universe. It's a simplified universe where there is more space and more freedom for doing different things. And she's almost all the time naked, so it's also something very
Nice.
freeing.
Yeah, you were talking a little bit about what you're trying now. You're trying to, you were saying you don't dare yet with colors, but you're trying to explore a bit. What are your plans with this escape that you have that is drawing cows for the future?
Yeah, so I'm trying to explore, like, because, you know, for me, it was also like one reason why I started it was to get better in drawing again, because it's something that I like to do and I missed. So I think like by playing more of colors and also actually adding more creatures to that world, to the cowverse, as just got named, I love it. I think that's also like a cool exercise, and like trying to expand and like try to limit less on this universe of like looking to cows only, but like also accepting other ones, but also looking to colors. And then in general, like what I did as well was like, you know, I got some people asking me like, where's my merch? Where's my stuff? I want to have stuff, and I want to have a tote bag from the cow. I want to have stickers and stuff. So I started doing stickers that I just hand over for free to people in Berlin. And if you walk around Friedrichshain in Berlin and Mitte, you can catch some, you can collect some. There are some walls and places. If you find some, tag me and I'll happily repost. And I'm also happy to send people stickers. I also did some giveaways as well last year. So I did stickers, and then I was looking to like producing some hoodies or like more like pullovers as a test. And then if it works, it works. If not, I just give it as a gift to people. Yeah, it's gonna be fine. Just give people on the street. People need new pulleys. Give them to people. Everybody needs at some point.
Cool.
We have a question from the audience actually.
Yeah.
Flávio, Lunara is asking, what is the best advice you have been given to in the creative world?
Best advice I've been given to.
The best advice you have been given.
I think was when I was starting this whole thing. So we were working with a lead. She was very encouraging on that project, and she was always pushing me to show and to share. Right in the beginning, I was like start sharing on the side and not really, a little bit shy and not really doing it. And she's like, you know what, just share, because you know, as cooking pans, there's always a cover for it, right? Like there will always be someone that's gonna fit to it, and there will be always someone that's gonna like it. Don't think too much, like don't overthink it, and just like go out there and try it out, and see and give it a chance to react and to work, right? Like give it a chance to live by itself. I don't know if that fits already as a creative advice, but I mean, it was for me one that was at the same time very easy, but also enlightening, right? I mean, it's a very given, right? Like, don't be afraid, just do that, just go out and do it. But it's harder as hell to do it sometimes, to do it.
Yeah, but it is a bit a common theme of everything you've been talking about, right? Like being afraid of the blank canvas or the blank Figma, and just starting, or just showing and then having the conversation and trying it out. I think it's a bit the theme, and it's a really good advice, I would say. Yeah.
Thanks for the question, Lunara.
Thank you, Lunara. Again, if you have any questions, put them up in the chat, and Mela can interrupt us and ask the questions, of course. Going back to your stickers, I was going to ask, are you aware how far they've traveled? Are you aware if they left Berlin and they are somewhere else?
So I know about some in Russia, because I send them to Russia to this friend of mine that won a giveaway, and there is some in Brazil as well, obviously, because I had to send some home. And I think that's the two extremes where it is at the moment. I try to stick some when I travel. So I've been to Bulgaria, so there is some stick in Bulgaria as well. So if you go to the Balkans, you may find some. But that's so far where we are. And yeah, I mean, if you guys want stickers, just let me know. I'm more than happy to send them out. Stickers for everybody.
Now you know.
I just have to wait a couple of days because the new order is coming next week.
Cool. And in that regard, I'm curious, now that you've been doing this for a while, so I guess your audience in Instagram is now beyond your friends and your acquaintances. Where are your fans? What's the strangest place where you got a note or a message or a like from?
I did this post on Medium, right? That I did an article about it, and this article got some reverb and I got like some places, and then I start like suddenly gets like lots of likes from the region from Russia, like not only Russia, but like Ukraine and like all this region. I think that was the first one, and they comment sometimes on stuff in Russian, and I'm like looking at it like, cool. I'm not really fluent in that language, but do it, awesome. And the thing, like, I mean, I think there's a lot of people from the US, which I didn't do anything to grow in that area, in that space. So it's like also like interesting to see how it's set in there, and a lot of people in Australia as well, surprisingly. So it's cool.
Super
all
nice.
Places all around the world, I would say. Like it's. I think there is representatives in all the continents. I would say there's also Asia, some. I think some people from Singapore or the Philippines also following. That's cool. It's very surprising. I'm always surprised when I see like, oh, new followers, and I'm like, what? Where is it coming from? Like, what? But because I don't do anything like specific, right? I don't do anything like, I don't do any paid ads or like anything like this. It's more like I just put some organic hashtags and some stuff, and it resonates to people. So it's cool. I'm happy.
That's cool. And one thing I'm really curious, you said that you started this to practice your drawing and to get better at it because you missed it. In your bucket list of things to try, let's say the cow runs out, you get bored of it, you don't dare to touch colors, you decide to just stop with it. What's the next thing that you want to try to practice or to get creative, so to speak?
So I came this close like a month ago to get a drum, to start playing the drums. Because I mean, I studied music before. I worked in the studio before as well. So I know how to microphone a drum. I don't know how to play a drum. I learned to play guitar and stuff, but I never dare to sit. Like every time I sit in a drum, I look at it and I'm like, I don't know even how to get started with that. And that will be I think that will be a next one to dare to try. I'm looking to options to get like a rental, so I don't commit too deep in the first moment. But that will be the next one.
I would tell you your advice back to you. Just start. Really,
Just do it.
I've been playing.
Yeah, it's for me. For me, it's been also the problem of the drum has been more the physical location of the drum set and how to place that in the apartment without like disrupting too much my partner's life. But I'm looking to a electric drum, so exactly I can just put headphones in and don't disturb people. People don't want to.
I was going to say that that's the trick. If you want to not annoy your neighbors, just get an electronic drum.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna look into options to get a rental or something. But that's good advice. So I'll get started.
Super nice. I'm not aware if we have any questions before we go in a drum tangent. Audience, Mela, team.
No further questions. But now it's the time to ask those questions, people.
Yeah. So if you have a question for Flávio, just feel free to unmute yourself and ask.
Cows don't bite.
Or don't.
Don't bite.
I guess we have a group of shy people.
Well, I have one. I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes. Hi, Flávio. We know each other already,
Yes.
but and it's so cool. Like I'm following the cows on Instagram, and it's really inspired me. To keep creative and to keep like putting your draws and doodles over there. So it's really nice. Thank you for that. And my question is, do you have a favorite one?
I do. I was thinking the other day, because I also have a book with all the first year of cows. And then I was going through that the other day. And then the one that I think I really like is the Dia de los Muertos from last year, right? Like it's a Mexican holiday. And then I did like my first dry of colors. So if you go back to Dia de los Muertos from 2020, you're gonna see my first colorful cow that I ever tried. It's a mix of a lot of black and colors, but it's a very cool cow. I think it's one of my favorites, I would say.
Cool, I'm gonna check it out.
And maybe mirroring that question, is there one cow that just barely made it?
There is a couple that I was like, I mean, there was last year. So October, you have like the Inktober, right? Which is this thing of like, you try to draw every day something. And then last year I was on holiday in the middle of the Inktober. And then I was traveling and doing stuff all day. And then at the end of the day, it's just like exhausted, but I was like, I have to do it because I committed to get to 300. I can't have a break. That's like the last sprint to get to 300. And it was tough. Like some of them I was like, okay, I don't really want to post that, but I would just post it for the commitment. I don't remember exactly which one. I can look back into the cows and find it, but there was some there in the Inktober last year that was like, I don't know if I want to do that.
So commit. That's the answer.
I had to go with the compromise. I promise I will do that. I just accept and don't look at the quality sometimes. Sometimes it's gonna look better and sometimes it's gonna look a bit worse. It's part of the journey, I would say.
That's also a nice advice, I would say. Just stick to it and it's all part of the journey as you go through it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And if anyone wants to play with colors, I also did a coloring book for helping with the lockdown. I have to pull the link up, but it's also like, I think Lunara, you downloaded that, and some other people I know that downloaded, and I get every now and then pictures. My favorites, like my niece, my brother, he keeps feeding his daughter cows to.
Oh no.
Coloring cows and she loved the cows and she asked for cows, and it's also super cool. I use her as also like a motivation sometimes on like she's like, I wanted to do something where basically I show exactly how you start from nothing, right? Like how you start from not having an idea. So I basically text my brother and say like, hey, can you get her to draw just some lines, just draw some lines in the paper and I'm gonna do something out of it. And then I did a cow around the lines that she did, which is also like a different way to get a motivation or like get a motive to drive, because then I just look into the lines, and then one of them I even remember, I did like I think it was a CrossFit cow that she was like doing that of the chords, like this exercise, this very classic exercise, because she did like long lines that was just like doing that, like zigzagging. So yeah, that's also like a fun exercise. So if you are afraid to start, just like ask someone to draw something in the paper and then you just follow it. It's like following the principle of the squiggle birds, right? Like this normal exercise as well, where you basically just do birds from masses of stuff and get doing it.
Super cool. We are reaching the time to wrap up this nice conversation, and I want to thank Flávio for being here. But before we do that, there's some chance for everybody to share any announcements, any jobs that you might be searching for, open positions, anything you want to share, events, your own cow version 2, anything.
If
Maybe.
anybody has a cow version, I'd love to see that. I would love to see that. That would be so good.
Yeah, head-to-head, cows versus cows. Celebrity deathmatch. Maybe if anybody has any announcement or any open positions, now's the time. So feel free to again unmute yourself and just share with the community.
I can push people and give a first start.
Yeah.
So if you don't follow the cow, go to Instagram/thecowoftheday. Give a follow. I promise it's gonna be worth. The journey is just on the start. And then secondly, if you want to work with in the same things that I do, or even work with me, at BC Digital Ventures, we're hiring a lot for design right now. So feel free also to just send me a message on LinkedIn. I'm happy to also give more context and talk a little bit about the role and the company and etc. Have some people even here in the call that I saw that joined us recently. So yeah, that's it. 2 announcements. Go to the call today. And if you're looking for a job in design and want to work on design consultancy, product builds, come talk to me. I'm your guy.
Cool. Anybody else? Maybe not.
Well, I can go next. Eden Spiekermann is also hiring some designer positions. So if you're interested in this one, check them out on the website, or yeah, just talk to me.
I'm gonna work
Nice.
with Mello, who is amazing. So it's a very cool opportunity. I
Thanks,
can
Flávio.
vouch for that.
You too. Working.
And any link or anything that has been shared during the day, also the open positions from Eden Spiekermann or VCGDB, we will be sharing in a few days a wrap-up email with everything that happened during the session. So you will also have access to these links later. But if you can't wait, I hope my teammates are adding the LinkedIn of Flávio and the open positions for Eden Spiekermann there, so you can contact them directly. Anybody else would have any other announcement before we wrap up the event? If not, I would just first tell you that our next event is happening on December 7th. It's going to be not awesome, mega awesome. I'm not allowed to say much more. So if Adam wants to say something, he can.
Yeah, so our next event will be on the 7th of December. We have Mark Stickdorn, who wrote the book Service Design Thinking and Service Design Doing. Maybe you've heard of him, maybe not also. And we will also be trying to find a location. So the first 20 or so people can join us for the last event of the year, and we'll probably have a few celebratory drinks. So if you'd like to join us for our community event, that would also be cool. But yeah, the 7th of December will be the last event of the year. Very excited to see you all there.
Yeah. And as always, you can find us in all the different social media locations on screen: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. Like I said, we will be sharing an email with all the resources that were shared during the conversation. I have not been following the chat, but I'm sure pictures, links, things came there, and maybe more inspirational material will come. But I would like to thank all of you who stayed after work, some of you after work on yet another call. So thank you so much for staying and for sharing the conversation with Flávio and me and the rest of the service design teams. And with that, just a big applause for everybody for doing this. Thank you so much. And now I'll stop sharing. Thank you so much. And we hope to see you on December 7th. Have a nice evening, day.
Thanks from my side for everybody organizing and everybody joining and the questions and for more questions. Just
Thank you for giving us your time, Flávio.
Yes.
Thanks very much, Flávio.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
See you in December. Bye.
Bye.